This is Sparta!
It has been quite the time to be alive if you are a Soulsborne fan, as recently we have had Lies of P and now Lords of the Fallen. So I hope you have been enjoying these games as much as I have, but let's not waste any more time and jump right in to things I wish I knew earlier. If you played other games in the Souls-like genre, you're probably used to them not having a pause menu. And while Lords of the Fallen doesn't have an official pause button, what you can do is go into photo mode and it's just as good as. So if you go into photo mode at any point, it will pause the game entirely. To do this on the PS5, all you need to do is press the options button and then click down the left analog stick L3 and it will go into photo mode. This will completely pause the game. Now that we've mentioned the PS5, there's a couple of settings I would recommend changing as soon as you start the game. Definitely switch it to performance mode, you'll notice the difference massively. And also disable film grain. It helps the image look a lot more crisp and less foggy, which is kind of, I guess, the look that I was going for, but I just really prefer it with the film grain turned off. If you are having a bit of a rough time in early game, there's actually a very good XP farm, Vigor farm, to level up really quickly, and it's really early on. All you need to do is go to Pilgrim's Perch Bellroom here at the Vestige of Blind Agatha. And a lot of people mentioned that you can just quickly kill this cage head, sit down and kill the cage head again. There's actually a way better method of doing this, which I'm sure somebody has probably already uploaded by now. But all you need to do is run straight past the cage head, stand next to the cliff, and as soon as he comes charging towards you, dodge out of the way, he will plummet to his death. Then you can simply kick this other enemy off the side just for some bonus XP, sit back at the Vestige, then just keep on repeating this as many times as you like, and you'll be getting a decent amount of vigor really quickly, especially for early, even towards mid-game. This is actually pretty decent. As you just seen, don't underestimate the kick mechanic in this game. It's actually really useful compared to other Soulsborne games. For a start, it's obviously really good for knocking enemies off cliffs if they're standing next to the edge. This of course only works on the smaller enemies. You can't find a massive elite and sort of just kick them off the side, but it's definitely really good for a lot of those areas with a bunch of annoying enemies standing right next to cliffs. The reason I recommend this so much is because I cannot explain the amount of times I've fallen off cliffs on this game just sort of attacking enemies, and when they die, the character sort of just keeps on attacking, and you just go flying off the cliff. It's happened so many times, so it gets to a point, if I see an enemy, this goes to the edge, I just kick them off all of the time. So much quicker, so much easier. Kicking is also a great way to stagger enemies. So when an enemy has no stamina left, you can see this by the circle that gets depleted when locked onto a target. When that reaches 0, you can simply kick the enemy instead of having to get a charged R2 to completely stagger them and being able to perform a riposte attack. You also definitely want to keep your eye out for mimics on this game, and while we don't have the traditional opening the chest and you get eaten up like in Dark Souls, at first sight they may look like just regular yellow sparkly items, but when you try to pick it up you get eaten by a massive monster and killed. So while they may look very similar, there's actually a pretty easy way to notice. I'll try to find an area here where we can see a mimic and a real item side by side just to compare them. As you can clearly see here in the gameplay, this one on the left hand side is clearly a mimic. The light is a lot more squiggly, a lot more volatile, let's call it. So yeah, go ahead and don't pick those ones up. However, this doesn't mean that we can't loot them. What many people aren't aware of is that once you've actually identified a mimic item, you can actually use Soulflay on it with the lamp and sort of destroy it, and it will drop a loot. Let's talk a little bit about respecking your stats in case you want to take your class in a different direction. You can actually respec in this game, but it will require an item called Rebirth Chrysalis. Now these are pretty rare in this game. You can get a few throughout your regular playthrough in mid to late game. You can buy one from Molu, which is the NPC in the Umbral world of Skyrest, the Nexus, the hub area. So you can get one really early on as soon as you like. After that, they're pretty slim pickings, though there is a way to buy as many as you like. For this, you need to go to the outer behind Molu, and this is the shop where you can spend your plucked eyeballs. And as you can see, for 75 plucked eyeballs, you can buy Rebirth Chrysalis. The way to obtain plucked eyeballs is getting revenge on other players that have been killed by enemies nearby, and these appear as the red lamps. If you see a red lamp, simply Soulflay it, and this will mark an enemy that killed some other player nearby. If you kill that enemy and get revenge for them, you will get 3 plucked eyeballs. So this does require quite a lot of time for each respec item, making them pretty valuable, so definitely spend them wisely. You can also buy Vestige Seeds from Molu, which I definitely recommend always having 2 to 3 on you at any time, because you never know how long or how far away the next Vestige is, or just what's around that next corner. Another really useful mechanic I'm really glad they brought over from Dark Souls is the quick access to your healing items. At the bottom left, we obviously have our item wheel where we can scroll through and select which item we want to use. But if you're in the middle of combat and you really need to heal, you don't have time to quickly check which item you're selecting, but there's actually a really cool feature that's usually implemented into the Souls games. that if you hold down right on the D-pad, it'll automatically go straight to the healing item and it won't go past there. So even without looking, if you hold it down for a couple of seconds, you know that the healing item is always going to be selected. Now in these videos, there's always at least one tip that I feel like an idiot just for not realizing sooner, but I do like to include them just in case there's anyone else out there who thought the same. So throwable items in this game are incredibly good. Not only do they give you a more versatile way of fighting at a range, even if you are in melee build, such as strength or agility, but other than just regularly throwing items, you can actually lock on and charge them with R2 and get a lot more powerful throws out of them, so it's like a heavy sort of throw. So yeah, I'm sure most of you knew that by now, but just in case you didn't, there you go. Another thing I didn't realize for the longest time is you can actually siphon the vigor from far away. So like when the enemy drops the purple XP beams, you usually have to run over and walk over it to pick it up. But you can actually siphon it from fairly far away by holding down L2 and then just holding down R1 as well. And you'll be able to pick that up from a distance. A great item I do not see enough people using is the Banner Javelin of Protection. This thing is by far one of the best items in the game, especially if you're really into exploration. The reason this item is so amazing is you can use it on pretty much any class. All it requires is 10 in strength and 10 in agility. And what it does is you can throw these at the ground and it will create a healing circle for you and if you are playing co-op for any of your friends. And you can just stand it for a while and heal up. If you've been clearing out a massive area with many enemies and you've run out of healing items and you don't want to have to go back and rest, you can simply pull one of these out, throw a few at the ground and heal up. If you throw more than one, it actually sort of stacks so you can heal faster if you want to. And obviously they do consume ammo, but you can also replenish your ammo with just some of those ammo pouches. So this is not infinite way of healing, but it definitely does prolong the amount of time you can be out there without having to go back and rest. As to where to unlock this healing javelin, we want to go to the Upper Kalrath mining district from the Vestige of Doln. As you can see here in the gameplay, starting out from the Vestige, we're going to fast forward this a little bit just to make sure we don't spend too much time on this. But quickly run through to the area where the tree is here in the plaza. And then go into the underworld, go up these stairs. Be careful as there will be an enemy that throws a barrel down those stairs, so make sure you dodge that. And then up here we can find the javelin. This next one is a really good combat tip, which is going to seem like second nature to many of you if you have been playing other Souls-like games, but maybe not so obvious to some newcomers to the genre. And that is that ladders are your best friend in this game. Not in the sense that they are going to show up to your birthday party, unfortunately, but they are going to help you defeat a bunch of strong enemies. Anytime you see a powerful enemy and a ladder nearby, that is just sort of like a golden ticket. The reason for that is obviously plunge attacks are godlike. So every time you see an enemy, sort of lure them away so you get enough time to actually climb up the ladder, and they'll sort of just hover around underneath, jump down, get a plunge attack, do the same, then climb back up and keep on repeating this. And it's just a much safer way of fighting those big, more powerful enemies, especially if there's a group of them. You do want to make sure that you've got enough distance between you and the enemies when you try climbing up these ladders, as they will hit you off if you are too close. Though in this game you do need to be careful, as some of the enemies can actually jump up from lower platforms to higher platforms, so watch out for those. The final thing I wish I knew earlier is make sure that before you go into New Game Plus, you really have your affairs in order and have really done everything you need to do in your previous playthrough. The reason for this is not that New Game Plus is necessarily more difficult. However, it is a real pain because there are no standard vestiges, like no bonfires, no regular checkpoints. There is going to be one in the entire game, which is obviously the one at the Skyrest, and other than that, you only have the one that you plant with the seeds. So obviously you can keep moving this around, but you only have one at all times, as when you plant a seed, the previous one disappears. So yeah, just to make sure you know that if you do go into New Game Plus, do so knowing that fast travel is not really an option. But that is it, guys. As always, do leave any comments down below if you do have any extra tips and tricks I haven't shared in this video. I hope you did find this video helpful. If you did, don't forget that thumbs up button, subscribe for more content coming very soon, and we'll see you next time.